Part 2 is what is considered red pill and is different depending on who you ask. By comparison, the 3-sentence Bible is the same no matter who you ask. Thank you both for your time.
Yeah, well, it should be. Again, we're talking about a college course versus a bumper sticker is what we're talking about. We're talking about, like, I'm not saying you personally. I'm just saying, like, people want simplicity, right? I mean, they want that emotional connection immediately. They want
you have to see here, bro. Let me tell you what's crazy about you guys. Take that off the screen real quick. And this is amazing. Everyone pay attention to this. And Rolo, I think you'll benefit from this if you actually like really take this to heart. The red pill theorist, yourself included, you guys get complex, sophisticated, pedantic, and you say, oh, it's praxology and it's deep and it's a college course of knowledge, which is ironic because I used to be in that business. The overwhelming majority of persons in America fail out of college. So to create anything designed around a college model is foolish, but it's ironic that someone who bases all of their thinking on data and intelligence is not using the data. The consumer that you're speaking to is not a scholar. Hence, you should design something like I've designed, which is simple, easy to digest in every language, which is precisely why Steve Jobs is brilliant, because Steve Jobs said, rather than go the route of the other fools in the PC space and create infinite variety, I'm going to design something beautifully that can mostly satisfy the persons who would use it. So he created one iPhone. He designed it as best as could be done, and it didn't have a lot of access for the end user to mess up things. On an iPhone, you don't have a lot of control. A lot of decisions are already made for you. On an Android, it actually is more similar to a PC computer. You have more control over settings. That is by design that Steve Jobs, as a leader, acknowledged the type of person he's dealing with, which is not the brightest star in the sky. So he made it accessible and functional, which is why Apple is cutting edge and best known not for innovation, not for technology, but for design. You must design around the consumer such that you can achieve an end goal. The problem of the red pill is that it's run by nerds. And the issue with nerds is nerds are not people of action. They're people of thought. They exist mostly here in the mind, which is why the revolution will never leave outside of their brain and manifest in the real world.
I have something to share with you here real quick. Let me see if I can find it. Grab this for you. If you would, put that up real quick. If
Absolutely,
you would.
I got you. You wanted full screen with us small in the
there
corner?
You go. That's fine. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. I use this as a sort of a model, sort of to talk about what you were explaining here towards the end of my fourth book, which is The Rational Male Religion. Okay, so first panel here.
The Rational Male of Religion?
No, it's my fourth book. I'll show you in a minute.
Okay. And mind you, everyone, his links are in the description. You click that first link. It'll take you to his author page with all of his books. If you want to check those out, obviously very bright gentleman. Go ahead.
Okay, so my son, to win in combat, you must let go of your conscious self. Why, Master? Because motor memories are stored as implicit memories, not declarative memories. Trying to use your conscious brain for motor tasks is basically accessing the wrong database. And then he looks very confused. He says, can you rephrase that as some mystical wisdom? Dwell within your inner inness, Thank you, wise master. It was a comic that I used towards the end of my book there. And really what that is it's a metaphor for the fact that you still have to have the fucking knowledge. You have to know what you're talking about before you can sort of simplify it into mystical wisdom. When you're talking about, I forget who it was, I think it was like Isaac Asimov or something, says, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And until we figure out what it is, right, and we say, it's not magic anymore.
That's right.
That's the problem that we're having right now is we still want fucking magic. We still want it to be simple. We still want it to be something that's easily digestible. We want mystical wisdom for something that is a very technical process. And that's the difference between what I think was it Brett Weinstein who said something like the difference between metaphorical truth and actual objective truth. Okay. So, for instance, like like you say, a porcupine, stay away from porcupines because they can shoot their quills at you, right? Okay. Now, that's objectively untrue. A porcupine cannot shoot its quills at you. Right. Okay. But it's best for you to believe that.
Correct.
There's some folktale about how the porcupine shoots his quills, because if you get a fucking porcupine's quill, it hurts like hell, right? So the metaphorical truth is it useful for you to believe that a porcupine can shoot its quills. Yes, absolutely. So you kids will stay away from it and you keep the dog away from it too, right? Yeah. But is it actually objectively true?
No. And here's a problem. That's the problem when you have true nerds. Rollo, when you have true nerds, a true nerd is like, you need to understand astrophysics. And they want everyday people to understand astrophysics, but a leader who has intelligence but is practical, they say, okay, I could explain to you, I could explain to you the physiology, anatomy, and biology of getting shredded abdominals. I could explain all of that to you, or I could just make sure that you exercise for 30 minutes a day and you do this number of ab crunches. And that's leadership, because you know who you're dealing with. And for those who can comprehend, for you, we have the book. But for everyone else, we have the meme, because we're in a meme society.
Yeah.
You see, the problem is this. Today, we're giving liberal arts education to people who are dimwits, which is to say you have people studying something called political science. This is an abstract thing. You should not have people in this discipline who are not very smart. You have people in the discipline of philosophy. I don't think most of them are going to become an epistemologist. Those majors should be capped off to like 10 people per university, because most of the time you're saying these things, Rollo, there are people in the chat who aren't bright enough to understand. And I challenge you, that cartoon you showed, people are still right now like, what the hell is Rollo talking about? Rollo crazy as hell. So the point is this: a part of intelligence is being smart enough to know when you're being too smart. To be smart enough to know, if I'm talking to a dumb broad, I'm not about to ask her what her views are on the Fountainhead, because she doesn't even know that's a book. If I'm talking to a smart woman who's a Harvard educated woman and she's an executive at a Fortune 500, then I can engage her with that conversation. But the problem is that nerds lack social skills, and they have such poor social skills that rather than adjusting to the outside world, which is what leaders do, adjusting the message so that it can be received, that's the purpose of communication, such that the other person gets what you're saying. But instead, in their own narcissism, see, this is the male red pill version of narcissism. They're so self-absorbed in their worldview and in their own intelligence that they have to show everyone how smart they are. You see me, I'm plenty smart, but if I'm talking to a simple man, I speak like a simple man. And when I'm talking to a Korean, I say, 안녕하세요. 만나서 I speak in Korean. There is no need for me to speak in a language people don't understand, because it will never help the people, though it might help my ego with me feeling smart. And that is the big issue with Red Pill, is that it goes nowhere because it's so hung up in the air.
So you want a leader is what you want. You want somebody to motivate and kick people.
No, I am the leader. I don't want a leader. I'm asking. I'm talking on the red pill side.
You want a leader to arise from the red pill so that will motivate all the losers to not be losers anymore.
Number one, I've never said that they're losers. I don't think that they're losers. I think many of them are smart.
So let's just say to change their lives from being like lethargic and listless and lazy, and to give them something useful, right? Again,
I don't think that's actually necessarily the case with him. I think many of them are, doing the right things, but they're not getting the correct outcome because the society they're in is so perverse. I think there are young men who probably follow you, might consider themselves red pill, and are still an incel despite having done all the right things. And I think sometimes you're saying that the right things that they did, they were given the wrong playbook. I think in many cases it's the correct playbook, but the society is sick because the political structure and the government has enforced an ill culture on us. So we have to go to correcting that, because I tell you what, there are some guys, they can be in good shape and they can be 5'7" and make a decent income and will remain an incel until the society is reorganized such that their demographic is valued, because we don't have every woman rushing toward the pharaoh, the emperor, the celebrity, and the 6'8" kickboxing champion.
Do you not think that they're already predisposed to want the highest value guy? Do you not already think
you say that you're referring to women, correct?
Well, yeah, women. Sorry.
I don't think it's predisposed. I think it's genetically determined. Yeah. However, when you look at the sheer numbers of, you have 100 men and you have 100 women, even when guys like me overconsume, there still are a number of women that rightly should be left over to men who are reasonably productive. And those men are not even getting their fair share at those women today.
So you think there's a deficit of Is that because of men, or do you think that's because women are only sharing the top? Like, I mean, we have this. I mean, we talk about this.
Women are sharing the top, guys, but here's the thing:
women would rather share a successful alpha than be saddled with a
subconsciously,
you know?
not consciously, subconsciously, and that's only a portion of women. But even let's say the average guys who fit in that middle category, if they manage to get married, they're basically losing within the context of the marriage. Like, you have guys who are married to women who won't have sex with them. You have guys who are married to women who won't cook for them. You have guys who are married to women who expect the man to be a gentleman, pay all the bills, pull out the seat, open the car door. And at the same time, he has to be submissive, and she's not being a lady. We have the definition of a gentleman is so clear, but the definition of a lady is missing, and he has no tools and no recourse to enforce his side of the contract, his benefits in that contract.
Well, so I got two questions for it. So number one is this, and we'll actually, let me get to the first one first.
Sure.
I was watching this video, and I think I saw it on Fresh and Fit. Actually, it was a clip that they were going to have a discussion over. And God damn it, I really want to find. I hope Big Mo can find it for me. But it was as a black couple, as a man and woman, and the man is having this discussion with his, I guess, his girlfriend, right? Okay. And she was explaining to him how she was not going to become marriageable. She's not going to cook or clean or do any of this other stuff until he can prove that he is marriageable. Like, he has to jump. He has got to be on top of his game. He's got to have his business together. He's got to have his education down. He's got to have his physique down. He's got like all this checklist of things, and he has to qualify before she will even consider becoming like a submissive, the traditionally submissive, a marriageable woman. And he's explaining this. So I have to go and become the best version of myself before you will take it upon yourself to actually, show me what do you bring to the table. You won't even have that conversation until I've made myself into something. So why am I going to bother with you, who's an unproven commodity, and I can go find somebody else who is a proven commodity instead of that. My other question for you is this: is that
so what was the first question?
So first question is this: is do you think is that as far as like societally, if it's Western societally, do you think it's because that women have this sort of sense of entitlement, and that this like the women identify with that chick, right? That one woman is like, I'm not going to become anything more than I have to be until I've got the guy who's like the perfect guy. He's got to be 6 feet tall. He's got to have, 6-pack abs. He's got to have 6-figure income. And the other thing is, so what's the solution? What do you think is the solution? What do you think you should do? What's the best practice?
The question just to make sure that I got the
question. To affect changing women's minds about about actually making themselves marriageable.
Yes. So let me just make sure I understand the question so that I can actually answer the one that you're asking me. So you described a dynamic wherein the woman says that she's not going to do the things that show she's worthy of marriage until he is the man that she believes is worthy of marrying. How do we remove that mentality from the female in the West? Is that correct?
Well, I mean, is that not what you were getting at in what you were previously saying there? Like, I'm
trying to make sure that like that's the question you're asking.
So I mean, the solution to get guys to stop being incels, red pill, what losers, is to have women that will incentivize guys not to be losers. Okay, well, how do you go about doing that?
No, I did not say that, and I don't think that is the case. So one, I don't think most guys are losers. I don't think the overwhelming majority of guys in the West are losers. That's not true, especially not in America. I've traveled around the world, and American guys have a lot of hustle. They definitely tend to spend less time at leisure than other guys you'll see in other parts of the West. So I think American guys are, reasonably legit. I think guys in Germany, Switzerland are reasonably legit. Obviously guys in China, Japan, Korea, they tend to be reasonably productive. Can't say the same thing about folks in Southeast Asia, but there are levels of diversity. But here's the point. The point is this. Number one, when you're looking at that female that was expressing those ideas, the funny thing is that the Black American, they think that they're unique, or they think they've come up with their own ideas. Mostly they have not, because they they really haven't had a proper intellectual class. So much of what the Black woman operates on is the same thing that the white woman operates on, which was her teacher. And the white woman has taught her gender feminism, not equity feminism, gender feminism, which is the false idea that the male and the female are not equal, but the same, which is different. Both are bad concepts, but that they are the same. We can do the same things, which is untrue. So the Black female, having mostly grown up in an illegitimate family, and increasingly white families are illegitimate too, but she's not grown up with a father at all. So ironically, whereas the white woman was rebelling against the white male patriarch, which was a real thing, the Black woman's rebelling against the Black male patriarch, which never was a real thing, at least not in her existence on earth, right? Because Black families have disintegrated since Jim Crow fell apart, which is ironic. Now, so the Black female and the white female largely the same, which is to say unruly. And they're under this idea that they're of such inherent value that the male has to display value. A part of that is not us not actually having basic fundamental biological understandings. The first thing I would do is start in primary education to teach them the realities of biology, which is something I've spoken to before, which number one, a female might start menstruating in, upper elementary, middle school. Great. Now you can have your peak of physical health of a kid 16. You in your late 20s start to have certain instances of genetic defects if you were to continue having kids. So first off, love, whereas you're over here like, oh, I'm going to wait till I'm 30, then I'm going to settle down and all this nonsense. Well, that doesn't agree with biology or your biological clock. That being the case, you should know that your value is waning rapidly. Hence, it is upon you to pick a guy who's willing to deal with you for the long run and settle down more quickly than a man. Once they understand that, then the whole ball game is different and the game has to be played faster. Right now they're playing they think it's baseball, 9 innings. No, love, really, it's actually basketball and you got 4 quarters. You don't have 9 innings, okay?
Well,
So
I would
that's
argue
number one.
it's a lifetime is what it is.
What's that?
Planning ahead for a lifetime is what it is.
These chicks are?
Well, so the way I explain this in my second book, which is Preventive Medicine, is like there's a timeline in there, really, like what you can expect from like women when it comes to like, say, a certain period of phases of maturity, right? And so like between like 18 and 28 is what we call the hoe phase, right? Or the party years or whatever. And that's usually the time at which a woman hits her like, peak sexual market value years where she has the most agency. She has the most power. It's when guys will just give her the fucking world, right? Well, that wanes as closer she gets to 28, 29, 30, 31 years old, which is what I call the epiphany phase right there. And then that's right about the time that men tend to, start to come into their own. They start to hit their stride right around their early 30s and mid 30s, right? So when we're talking about, the window of opportunity for women to have that internal conversation that you're just talking about right now between 18 and 28. First of all, that's a real tall order because everyone wants to give them, if they're hot and the world is their oyster. That's one thing. The other thing though is that you've got 10 years to consolidate on long-term security that's going to help you live till you're 90, right? For the rest of your life. And again, you want to talk about red pill stuff? I was just talking about this very recently, is that women need insight. They need to be, grand strategy. They need to understand where they're at and what they're doing right then and right there. If you are 23 years old, you are at the peak of your sexual marketability. You are as hot as you're going to be, and you are going to be as marketable, sexually marketable to get that long-term security out of a man at that point. And if you don't realize that, you're gradually going to realize that by the time you get to about 33, when you realize that your 33-year-old self cannot compete with your 23-year-old.
And so here's the thing. We agree here. We agree here. And we mostly agree because these are what's called the facts, right? This is biology.
True.
There's no room to disagree, although women still disagree on this one. Now, when I say, okay, well, what are we doing on the side of the ism? So I have the lady saints, right? We have a whole section, just like we have a section of men, we have a section of women. And these are the kind of education we put them through, and we encourage them toward the things that are going to be best for them. And I will tell you, marriage, especially as it's conceived in Western society, is an institution for women. This is not an institution for men. This is an institution to benefit the female. If I had a daughter, Lord, I would be telling her to get married. I'd be so behind it. I'd be doing everything I could to get her married. If I had a son, I'd be telling him, son, play that field, son, play that field, get everything you can get, and then settle down with 3 or 4 women, make as many children as possible. It's going to benefit you in the long term. Radically different programs for the best interest of that individual male or female. But see, my point is this: practicality. How do you actually get these things
How do you
done?
initiate that? Yeah.
Well, we have the Lady Saints. We're giving actual education, and we're giving education, training, and conditioning. And that's how you perform in the world, right? It's like you can't go play basketball unless you've had a coach and you've had some practice. Then you can survive in the game. Conversely, how does the red pill, like we share this perspective, but from a red pill perspective, how have you implanted that in women? Well, there's a disconnect. You have the knowledge, but there's no practice. There's no imparting of this to the female because it's just here for you guys.
So when people ask me this, when are you going to write The Rational Female, Rollo? And my answer to them is it's already written. It's called The Rational Male. It will teach you how men think and how women interact with that. Right now, could I go out there and say, okay, here's your own nature, ladies? Am I going to be that presumptuous to do that? I don't know. Maybe I will at some point. But the long and the short of it is that the like I said, the Chilton Manual of intersexual dynamics is already there. So my question is this, is like, how do you institute that? How do you make that happen? You have the revolution, and then what happens after the revolution? So we have this conversation all the time. Like you can go and look at, I mean, if you look at Myron and Fresh, hell, you were on the After Hour show. Yeah. Like you're looking at the women that are there. I'm doing Access Vegas, was whatever podcast and everything else. We're looking at this, and it's holding women accountable, right? Holding women's feet to the fire. And if you go and you look at every freaking short, every reel, every, TikTok video, every like 45-second clip that's out there, the ones that do the best are the ones where it seems like that woman it's like comeuppance, right? It's like, oh, she's getting she's being held accountable. And I'm saying that we're what, 3 years into at least Myron and Fresh anyways. Yeah. And are women learning? Are women, getting together and saying, you know what, these guys were right. We really need to organize and start changing our minds about ourselves. And
that's criticism of the red pill, then, right? Mm-hmm. I said that's criticism of the red pill.
Well, no, I'm saying that even if we were like, as Myron and Fresh are doing, right? Even if you are presenting this to them and saying, look, here's what you need to think about, ladies. Here's the grand strategy. This is what you ought to be thinking about.
Is that what they're doing, or are they really creating a phenomenal innovative podcast that is largely circled around obliterating dumb harlots for the entertainment of a largely male audience? That's really what they're doing. That's a beautiful thing. And good friends of mine, I commend them for that. What I'm really saying to you is this, and I don't want this point to be missed, which is that, you shared the question, but it's the wrong question. You said, people keep asking me, when am I going to write The Rational Female? Well, that's the problem. You're already thinking in the wrong way. People don't read books. There are people who have bought your book and bought my book and haven't read it, right? And then there are other people that would never buy a book, right? You see? So even the concept of if I write The Rational Female, the Rational Female is not going to do anything. I mean, we even have something called the Quran, the Bible, the Torah. Those books are called holy by God, and they don't do anything. So to think that a book is about to change anything significant is just, it's silliness. Honestly, it's infantile thinking.
So where do you go from there? What do you do?
I've already described that.
Do you have a let's just say a cult leader? Do you have a top guy who's going to sort of put down the the word of God for everybody else to follow? I mean, is that how it works? Because again, you can have, like I said in that comic, you can have all of the data, but people don't. If you can give people all the data in the world, but if you don't tell them how to feel about it, they're going to hate you for that. They're going to insert their own meaning just by giving it to them. They're going to go, why are you telling me about this? Do you think I need to know this? Do you think that this, what are you trying to say about me? Right. They'll insert their own meaning into whatever it is and say, no, here's some dots to connect. What do you is this useful to you? Can you find some way to actually use this stuff to improve your life?